Welcome to Quiz 6, 3 things I learned when my plane crashed. For Quiz 6, you're going to view a TED Talk by Rick Elias. He was a passenger on the famous Miracle on the Hudson flight, which crash-landed into the Hudson River near New York City. His TED Talk is only about 5 minutes, so you're going to watch it and listen for some of the following vocabulary, and then complete Quiz 6 at the end of the video. You're going to hear Rick say the phrase brace for impact. Brace for impact. That is a common phrase that's often used on airlines, especially by pilots. Well, I should say it's not common, but it's something that you don't want to hear said on an airplane. However, it's a phrase that everyone in the aviation business knows. To brace means to press one's body firmly against something in order to stay balanced. It also means to prepare for something difficult or unpleasant. So if your friend comes up to you and says, "Okay, ready? I have a story, brace yourself." That means get ready mentally because this is going to be a wild story or unpleasant. Brace can also be a noun. If you've injured your foot or your hand, you might have worn a brace. It can mean a cast or support for a broken bone, so it can be a noun, but in the phrase brace for impact, it's used as a verb. Impact itself is the action of one object coming forcibly into contact with another object. So if a pilot says brace for impact, that means that the airplane is about to collide with something, be it the ocean, another airplane, or the runway, but it might be a difficult landing. So again, it's a phrase that many people know if you have to work with airplanes, but I hope you never hear it. Oh, impact can also be a verb, meaning to have a strong effect on something. So if you saw a wonderful movie, you could say, "Wow, 1917 was such a powerful movie. It really had an impact on me." It changes the way you think or it impacts your life. So Rick Elias was definitely impacted by what happened on his airplane. Flight attendant. Again, a very common phrase used with airplane people. A person who helps people on an airplane. Flight attendants have traditionally been thought to be female. However, there are many male flight attendants as well. If you attend to someone, it means you help them or you meet their needs to assist them. Here's an example of active tense versus passive tense. Both of these sentences are conveying the same information, but notice how the subject is either put first in active tense or at the end in passive tense. So active tense. The nurse attended to the patient while he was in the hospital. Attended is past tense. You could say the nurse assisted the patient. The nurse helped the patient. If we want to take that same phrase and make it passive tense, we would take the nurse and put that at the end. Instead, we would say the patient was attended to by the nurse. The nurse is the one doing the attending. So in active tense, it's the subject, and it comes first. In passive tense, it remains our subject because they're completing the action, but it goes last. Bucket list. Bucket list. This might be a phrase that you've heard as well. It's not a literal translation. Again, it doesn't mean bucket, doesn't mean list. Instead, it's referring to a series of tasks you want to do in your life before dying or kicking the bucket. So you might hear this idiom used as well. If someone kicks the bucket, they pass on, they die. A bucket list is not intended to be a morbid thing. There's many jokes made about it saying, "Oh, I have so much to do on my bucket list." It's a collection of inspirational goals, positive things you want to accomplish while you're alive. People have taken the phrase bucket list and modified it, so it might not necessarily mean a life list of tasks. Often in the summertime, students have a summer bucket list, things they want to get done over the summer before the summer ends. A travel bucket list can be places you want to visit, destinations you hope to see. Or a general bucket list can also mean what you want to do in your life. For example, I want to see the pyramids in Egypt. That's one task on my bucket list. What is something on your bucket list? Here's another idiom, mend a fence. To mend a fence means to repair a damaged relationship or friendship. In the TED Talk, you will hear Rick Elias say, "I wish I could have mended those fences." He's talking about people he had a problem with, people he no longer talks to, maybe he had a fight with, and he wishes he had the opportunity to fix those problems, to mend a fence, and become friends again. There's a lot of idioms having to do with fences and bridges. Here's another. To burn a bridge is the opposite of mending a fence. So to mend a fence means to fix something that's damaged. To burn a bridge means to cause the actual damage, to do something that cannot be easily undone or reversed in the future. For example, here's Bob. Bob is planning to quit his job, which is fine in and of itself. But in doing so, he yelled at his boss. This relationship is now damaged. Bob will probably never be able to work for this man again. The boss will probably not give Bob a good job review or letter of recommendation. Bob has burned a bridge. It might hurt him in the future. My recommendation is that no matter what happens, you never burn a bridge. Even if you have a professor who's the biggest pain in the neck and they give you a really hard time and they're even somewhat rude to you, it's always best to just suck it up and maintain professionalism, never burn a bridge, because you never know how that might affect you in the future. Here are some more bridge idioms. For example, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. It means let's not worry yet. We can worry later when the problem arises. So if you're worried about the final exam right now for this class, I would say, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. We're not there yet, so we don't need to worry about it at this time. It's water under the bridge. That's a very common idiom. It's over, it's done, we don't have to worry about it anymore. If Rick Elias had a fight with his brother, let's say, and he wanted to mend that fence, they could say, "Oh, the fight we had was a long time ago, it's over, it's water under the bridge." Just like water passes under the bridge and it doesn't come back, they don't have to dwell on a bad thing anymore. The third idiom, he went a bridge too far. This is a little rarer. You might not hear it as often, but it means to try to do too much at once. For example, a college student registers for 7 courses in one semester. That's taking on far too much. They are going a bridge too far. They might be better off with 6, 5, even 4 courses at a time. And finally, I will bridge the gap between Republicans and Democrats. The meaning is very similar to what a bridge literally does, which is to take 2 locations and connect them. To bridge the gap means to act as a connection between people or 2 groups. Rick Elias says by connecting those 2 dots in his speech, that it kind of means the same thing. If you connect dots, bridge the gap, you're bringing 2 separate entities together, metaphorically. So if 2 students were fighting in my class, I would bridge the gap between them by helping them to solve their problem. And finally, here is my favorite quote from the TED Talk. Rick says, "I no longer try to be right, I choose to be happy." This occurs at minute 2:47 in the video, and notice that he says it after he tells the audience that he has not fought with his wife for 2 years. Notice fought is the irregular past tense of fight. He did not fight, he has not fought with his wife for 2 years. That's amazing. What do you think he means by this? Now it's your turn to record your own Flipgrid video for quiz 6. Reflect on what Rick means by this quote. If you're told in college to reflect on something, it's very open-ended. It's a great verb to use because it means you can really take it however you want. To reflect on something is just to share your thoughts about it. So look at the quote. "I no longer try to be right, I choose to be happy." What do you think Rick means by this? The second one down, how do you choose to be happy? Tell us. Do you make a conscious effort to be happy in your life? Tell us what you do to bring happiness to yourself. And finally, imagine there's someone out there who's struggling to find happiness right now. In fact, I bet a lot of people during this global pandemic are having trouble being happy. Share some advice you would give someone who is struggling to find happiness. What could they do to bring happiness into their life? Go ahead and reflect on this quote in your video, and I look forward to hearing your responses.